forget. I just want to finish up this so I don't have to think about it anymore.
Okay.
And nobody cares. So I used all of the kale. I used all of the greens, except for I saved some of the old kale because it was the organic stuff that I wanted to use for smoothies, or
sure.
that was the only thing, but I used everything else. So we should be good. Okay. And I also think
Did you see there's also rainbow chard in there?
so Yana Yana came over and bombed the show, and she was saying how it looked like, oh, I can show you. I'm so
Mhm.
It's Christmas greens. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
You want there because like got little flecks of red and white in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the red chard and a little tiny bit of bacon. So there's little bits of red, like little flecks, and then the onion. And I use yellow onion and a little bit of red onion too, just for extra. So it looks really pretty. It's really pretty too. Oh, and Antifa's here. Okay.
The only side to rainbow chard is when you try to make soup with it and it turns your soup into sort of an orangey pinky color. And when you call it unicorn vomit, your roommates are not amused and they don't want to eat it.
That's a really great. I'm already enjoying our first minute of being on the morning show together, Sarah. It's everything.
Oh, we're live. Cool. What's up, y'all?
Yeah, exactly. It's everything I would have hoped and dreamed and more. Unicorn vomit, and I was like, "What? This?"
It was like a potato soup, and it turned the potatoes like sort of like an orange pink color.
Do you want your dog back? Because she's definitely whining.
Bubba, do you want to go grab her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yep.
Okay. I'll let her out of my room so you don't have to come all the way up.
Perfect. Okay, welcome. So we are live. Antifa is someplace on there.
Mom, can you get her?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Yep. Everett, you can stay on. Yep.
Find it after, but
I appreciate it. We'll grab her. So good morning, Grand Rising. Happy Thursday. Gratitude Day, Turkey Day. What else did you say? Thanks taking? What did you say?
Oh, I called it Thanks-Taking Day instead of Thanksgiving Day.
Whatever the thing, the spiritual thing, that this idea of day of humbling and healing, right? The idea of repenting for salvation, admitting your sins, and being able to also heal. Like you got to humble before you heal, right? So whatever you're doing today, however you're celebrating the day, happy day. We are here to entertain you, hopefully a little bit, and relieve ourselves as well, and get to chat with each other. And yeah, this is our first show with this mix, and the first show that Sarah and I have done together. So yeah. Excited. Yay. Welcome. So we're going to do check-ins. We're going to do like extended check-ins, gratitude, whatever's on your heart, what you would like to share. I'm going to go whenever you guys tell me, but not first. Everett, do you want to go first actually? And you can tell us, you can do your check-in of how you're feeling and what your gratitude or whatever you want to share with us today. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Oh, Bubba, I'm sorry. Hold on. I forgot to do this stupid commercial. Hold on. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're on Facebook, if you can share it, like it and share it, and YouTube and patreon.com/Solidarity House to support. I'm supposed to do the commercial at the beginning and I keep forgetting to do it. So I did it now. So if you haven't, you can go do that right now.
Yep, we did with my campaign, because I kept forgetting, is I put it on a piece of paper that I'd hold up.
When you remembered.
Yep. Paid for by Yana for what? Like support.
I mean,
that's smart. That's a good idea.
I have it on my list of things to do of the, it's like theory versus practice. Like you have to actually like look at the list to like make sure that you're on the right track. So yeah, there we go. Everett, how are you? Where are you at? How you doing? What's going on? What to share with us that's on your heart?
Well, things are actually going really good. Thanksgiving is today. I have a dog. Oh, yeah. I'm doing great. And I'm just in bed on the morning show because and I'm excited to be here and excited for Thanksgiving.
I don't know. I missed your check-in. I'm really sorry because I was letting the dog in. Do you have anything else for the audience before we move on? Your dog should be coming to you shortly. Sorry, Yanni, you want to follow up? Doing a dog
Sure.
posting.
Sure. Actually, I am. The main thing I'm grateful for is just having so many more amazing people at Solidarity Collective this year than last year at this time. And Everett and I had this super fun conversation the other day in the kitchen while I was cooking about how much we both love traditional Thanksgiving food, like politics aside, like all of the messy, horrible, shitty, terrible history, the whole like turkey stuffing, potatoes, cranberries thing just makes us both really happy. So so that was fun. Yeah, and I'm doing pretty good. I had my I'm on the board of the Foundation for Intentional Community, and we had our monthly board meeting yesterday, and it's like basically board and the core staff people together. And so it was like a whole bunch of my favorite people. And at the end, we didn't use up as much time as we usually do. And so at the end, we just got to like hang out and do gratitudes with each other. And we just sort of like spontaneously, it turned into this big love fest with my intentional communities people all over the country. And that was great. And I'm especially excited because I've been pushing FIC, I'm pushing the whole communities movement to like do better on race for the last like 5 or 6 years. And we now have more board prospects in like in the works where we may actually end up with a majority BIPOC board of directors, which I'm super crossing my fingers for. But like, I love the people of color who are on the board right now. And so I'm just feeling like a lot of gratitude that like things do change. Like they change slowly, they change painfully, they change awkwardly, but they can change. And I'm feeling like lots of gratitude this morning for that. And I'm also feeling grateful today for not winning an election, not preparing myself to go to DC and deal with the snake pit. So that's like one of my 2020 was like intense and amazing in some ways for me. And I'm glad I'm not going to DC. Yeah. So that's my my immediate gratitudes.
I have a quick follow-up question for the intentional, the IC.org. So I remember there's something, and the board is one part, and I think that that's amazing. I don't want to diminish or take away from that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's still going on, but I know that they had something, they were like more grants. I was like the banner at the top about for BIPOC to encourage involvement. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That was amazing. I was like
yeah. Well, so the history on that is that Sky, who used to be the executive director before we moved to like a collective management model, and Cassandra and I were like started various conversations about like this thing is just too white, like 4 or 5 years ago, and the idea that we came up with was to create like a land trust to hold land and offer support services and whatnot to that we were calling the Land Trust for Collective Liberation. And that project, and I got a board together, and I was like the first co-director, which is kind of weird, but like we had enough bandwidth to like have a director. And then when I started running for office, I kind of stepped back from it. And it was one of those great things where like I stepped back and I was worried it was going to die. And then a couple of the people who had been on the advisory board were like, we kind of want to pick this back up. And so they picked it back up and they turned it into the BIPOC fund. So it's not the same vision that we had originally, but they turned it into thing. And now it's only people of color involved in it. And that's actually where some of our potential new board members are going to be coming from, is from that. So it was like this, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then all of a sudden like 5 steps forward and there's a thing happening. And so, yeah. So that is the thing. And people can make donations. That would actually be a good Thanksgiving thing to do. Thanksgiving thing to do would be go to the IC.org website and actually make a donation to the BIPOC Fund today.
I wanted to say that because like I've been open with you guys too about my sort of involvement here and being like on an expedition to try to figure out what are the best practices, what are the models, what are the connections that we can make to have more people and, you know, my friends and family and people that I know who may not be may not have experience or may not have knowledge about something like this sort of like lifestyle or what those possibilities are. And I don't necessarily qualify for those, but I'm like, I have lots of friends who do. And so, yeah, I think that it's really exciting stuff. It's really exciting stuff. So thank you for speaking to that. Sarah, can I just say again, I'm really excited to be on here with you because our conversations are what like I was like, what are we doing? Like, why aren't we just like we should be having these vulnerable conversations publicly? Like why are we not doing this?
Speaking all of this into the void of each other's brains and nowhere else.
Welcome. Like, what's up? How you doing? What's the word? What's good?
I mean, it's morning, so, you know, not a morning person right now.
Can we talk about
ever a morning person, but you know.
Can I just ask, like, we talked about food and you weren't here on Monday, but I know you were doing like a ton of baking and it is Thanksgiving. I'm totally taking over your check-in already. I'm really sorry. Can you talk about what I want you to talk about? Can we do it that way? Could you just?
Yeah. Do you want to know what I made yesterday? Is that what you're asking? Okay.
Yes,
so I made, what did I start with? I made pies. I made a pumpkin pie with a gluten-free almond flour crust for Yana. And I made 2 traditional pumpkin pies, which turned out pretty good. They were a little cracked in the middle. But that's okay. That's what whipped cream is for. Yes. And I made the crust with all butter, and some of it was Kerrygold butter, so hopefully it's bomb. And also both times I made pie, I had leftover filling, so I baked that in like glass bowls. So there's like also extra like pumpkin custard filling situation in case we run out of gluten-free pie or people just don't want any crust. And then I made these brownies, these like 20 ingredient brownies that were like a brownie on the bottom layer with like a cheesecake layer, cheesecake filling layer or whatever, cream cheese layer. And then chocolate ganache on top, which I sort of decided was like, I never made myself a birthday cake because I was in quarantine. So I just ended up making myself puppy chow or muddy buddies for you fools who aren't from the Midwest. So I decided the brownies were my birthday brownies, but then I discovered that this recipe is an all day recipe and a then chill in the fridge overnight recipe. So they're ready today for Thanksgiving. So we just have extra desserts. And then I made my mom's homemade bread roll recipe, which I feel like didn't turn out quite as good as like, it's just going to make me miss hers probably. But I don't know I think I just didn't let them rise enough. It was the end of the night. I was tired. I think that, or I didn't knead it enough. Next time I need to make sure that a tall, angry person comes and does the kneading for me. I'm just not tall enough to get like a good pressure on the dough. You know what I mean? And then I also have carpal tunnel, so that doesn't help either. Although I could also just like put it in the bowl with the bread hook and that would make a lot more sense. Also, work smarter, not harder. Sometimes when you're tired, you forget.
That's so true. It's hard. It's hard to think through and think clearly when you're like in the middle of it too, right? And tired and between.
And it's like hard for me to transition sometimes, which is a detriment to my baking, because once I've started something, I'm just, even though my brain is telling me like, hey, you know, this would be a lot easier in the like stand mixer, another part of my brain's just like, nope, this is what we're doing. and we're not changing now. Anyway, so I made bread rolls and I put together the mac and cheese that's going to get baked today. So it's got, which we'll see. The cheese I used some of that like mozzarella that we got, that was, and it didn't really like melt into the sauce very good. So what I'm hoping when it bakes, it will come together. It will be cheesy. It will be creamy. And then there's a bunch of pepper jack, and I'm going to put more pepper jack and like cracker crumbs on top. So it's crunchy. And I made like a super huge pan because we're going to eat this stuff all weekend. And most people like leftover mac and cheese. So it'll be a little bit spicy from the pepper jack. And what else? I think that's all I made yesterday. There were several things that were multi-step recipes.
That's a lot. Like that's not an insignificant amount.
It only sounds, when I say it, it's just like that's 4 things. I guess if you count each pie as an individual thing, it's more things. I was just thinking like, how many pies I made.
But didn't you do like some of the crust too for the pies? Like I think that's like a whole.
Oh yeah. I did make homemade crust, which reminds me, we have a little bit of extra pie dough, which we can definitely not throw away because there's Kerrygold in it. So we need to find something to wrap in pie dough and bake. So just think on that.
Make samosas.
There's not that much pie dough. There's like enough for like a galette or like baked brie or something like that, but probably not enough for like
I like how you went straight to samosas.
I mean, I'm down. I like this. We get the samosas from, and you know what? If we order Indian food, we will have samosas this weekend because that's our special dinner for Friday night.
Tomorrow night, yeah. We're gonna have 2 really sweet food days in a row. Yeah.
Sarah, so I'm just looking at the list just because I'm thinking about this, and then I want you to finish your check-in. So I got my greens done. Mm-hmm. I may just skip the cheese ball dip just because I don't know if we have like all of the veggies to go with it right now.
Uh-huh.
I'll do it. I'm just thinking that's my question mark. But then I'm about to do the stuffing and the green casserole, and then the cheese ball dip is still my question mark, and then that's it for me. And then the only other things I see for you is corn casserole and the roasted Brussels sprouts. So do you need any support for those? Did you already allocate pans?
Yeah, I did. The corn casserole is super easy to throw together. It's so good.
Yeah.
And the Brussels sprouts are also, I already prepped them. I just need to, I'm going to have to roast them from frozen because I forgot to take them out of the freezer. So they'll just roast longer probably, but that's probably fine. Then they'll like caramelize nice on the outside. It'll be delicious.
I'm just
gonna cook them in bacon.
Great. Okay, so now that we've done the food check-in, can you talk about the rest of your life, or whatever else you would like to share on your heart, gratitude or not, or what's happening?
So I think my gratitude this year around like the holidays specifically is just being around people who don't look at me like I'm deranged and insane when I say things like thanks taking day. Like particularly I'm thinking of like 2015 or 2016? I don't know. I don't remember years good. Oh, hello, Miss Estrellita. Oh, little doggo. Sorry, she just popped up on my screen. My bad. anyway, like, and so that year, it was the year that Standing Rock was happening. And this is probably like the last Thanksgiving or like the last holiday that I had that was sort of like this or whatever. But my mom's best friend has a huge family in Ohio. And so sometimes we would go there, especially after my parents got divorced, we would go down there for Thanksgiving and they would put out this huge spread. I mean, they would have like sometimes 50 plus people at this, because of all the kids and all the grandkids and everything. And so what I had decided to do, because Standing Rock was like, don't send us stuff. Like, we don't need the stuff. We then have to sort the stuff and it's not helpful. It just makes more for us to do. Please, like, just send us your money. You know what I mean? Like, which is legit. And so I decided, instead of crocheting hats to send, which was what I was thinking of doing, I would just sell them to my family and friends who will just buy stuff because you ask them to, typically, and then send the money to Standing Rock. And so that's what I was doing. And so I decided, in order to kind of in solidarity and in order to like generate conversations at Thanksgiving, that I would like fast, like I would not eat dinner like all day. I did end up eating like later in the day, like heating up some food or whatever, but I didn't eat like at the like dinner while everybody was there. And I just was like working on my hats. And it did spark some conversation. When I like explained what I was doing, most of them were just like, oh, okay, that's nice. Whatever. But anyway, and so it was just, that, which, I mean, I guess it's, there's definitely, it's definitely good to like, to sometimes be in those environments, and because then, you have the opportunity to at least make people, force people to acknowledge that there's different viewpoints than the ones that they hold, even if they're not actually inclined to listen to them. But it also is very nice to just be around like-minded folks as well. So yeah, I'd say that's my gratitude for this year. And
Can I ask a follow-up question about the crocheting of the hats and the
yeah.
And like how that was received or what that experience was like? I think I really struggle sometimes with like, what can we do, right? What impact can we make? And so how do you feel, like how did that sort of experience or your takeaways, your lessons of like, was it worth it? Or like, like it's hard to kind of sometimes, or do you know what I mean? Like what that lasting impression was. And so how do you feel about that, years later, or sort of, it's still a memory, right?
I think the not eating during the day was good for me. I don't know that it really had like that much of an effect on anybody else. It's just good for me to be like, I mean, it was like on my mind literally all day. I mean, partly because I was crocheting hats, but also because I was like hungry and not eating. And also like in front of all this food that was delicious. And like, I know how delicious it is because I would like go there like a lot of like most years. And let me tell you, when your family makes a spread for like 40 to 50 plus people every year, you get really good at it, at like timing everything and making sure things are hot. And there's like multiple turkeys, which means there's lots of turkey skin. Yeah, right. So I actually have I'm really judgmental of like other people's large holiday gatherings, because like not everybody is like had that much opportunity to practice right. And so I'm just like, when people like can't make things come together, or when I can't make things come together at the same time to be like the right temperature, I'm just like, oh, this is garbage. I thank my mom for my just really, judgmental. I have to check myself a lot, right? But
sorry.
No. But yeah, but then as far as like the crocheting, I mean, Um, you know, some like, I know my mom bought one. I think somebody else bought one. Mostly I just ended up sitting next to one of the older ladies, one of the sister-in-law's moms or whatever, who was just sitting there and like crocheting, and just kind of like sitting over there in the alcove, like next to her, in like the old lady corner, which I probably would have been more effective if I had had the like spoons and like mental wherewithal to be like going around as I was crocheting and like making conversation with people, like as I was crocheting. And then when they, you know what I mean? But I like, from not eating, I was just sort of too like, I didn't have, do you know what I mean? So I just ended up like sort of sitting in the corner. So in hindsight, I'm like, maybe I should have eaten, because then I would have, or I don't know, I should have eaten something before I went, so that like I had enough, you know, like brain juice to talk to people. But yeah, I guess be like my takeaway. And I really still like the idea of making stuff. I've accumulated quite a mass of yarn just from like Goodwill and from stuff that people have given me, and from like just like craft outlet places where you can just buy it really cheap. And so I really still like the idea of making stuff to sell, like just expressly for the purpose of donating to land defenders and direct relief and direct aid funds and bail funds. My crochet capacity is not there yet. But if other people were interested in, if you're a crocheter and you want to make shit to, if you don't have money to donate to people and you feel sad about it, but you know how to crochet, you can make some stuff. I'll send you yarn because I have a lot of it. Double points if you live in Laramie and I don't have to send it to you and I can just put it on your doorstep. Also have crochet. Yeah.
Also, remember that you can crochet too. This is what we talked about crocheting and having fun, and it's like a therapy too, right? Like doing something with your hand, like art therapy, like
it's excellent, honestly. Like if you, especially once you get your stitch down, if you're just doing really repetitive things like making a scarf or something that like you don't have to be like referring to the pattern a lot. It's great to like listen to podcasts or audiobooks while you're doing it, or like watch, you know, your comfort shows that like you've seen a million times anyway. I wouldn't recommend trying to watch a new show that you've never seen before while you do it, because I feel like that's a good way to drop stitches. It's at least for me anyway. But.
And now we're all the way on the crochet, like
yeah. Schedules are for losers. We talk about what we want, even when it makes no sense and follows no logical. Yeah.
The revolution.
And that I was just thinking about this morning. So I had on my Facebook feed this morning the thing from 5 years pop up where I had just decided to not go to Standing Rock because of my health issues, and they had been specifically
they were like, hey, don't
if you can't like do something really fucking cold. And I was like going through all these different feels about it, you know, where I had made the decision and it was definitely the right decision, and we had just done a fundraiser for it, so it was not like I was feeling like I wasn't doing anything, but just interesting to see that self-awareness around like, I'm going through the like, I'm not going to be a cool kid if I don't asked to Standing Rock, and like how fucking petty that is. And just like, so it was just really interesting seeing that post this morning and then having you talk about it. And think about things like, so there's certain things that are kind of like generational, for people who are like activists or on the left or whatever. You know, there was like Tiananmen Square when I was like, you know, like around 20 that happened. And, you know, and there was Occupy, there was Standing Rock. And so just noticing like how much, like, even though like Sarah and I totally didn't know each other at that point, like we have this like shared activist language and understanding about stuff. And then our lives cross paths like later on, but it's just interesting to me how like Standing Rock has become one of those things that has really
Yeah.
shaped a generation of activists in a way that some of those other things did earlier. And just noticing it showing up in both of our spheres today is,
Yeah.
it's a real thing. Yeah.
Thank you for that. The synchronicity, right? Of like, where were you? What was your experience? What was that like? What are your takeaways? Reflections now, right? Of like from then to now.
Yeah.
It's been a few years now, right? So, Sarah, Yana, thank you for that. Sarah, do you have anything else before on your check-in at the moment before we go to Auntie Fa, who's now back with us?
I don't think so. I think I'm good. I feel like I talked a lot. So
Love you. So good to have you. Auntie Fa, you made it. Welcome. Good day.
Thank you. I'm glad to finally be here. I'm trapped in the deserts of southern Utah. I've got my camouflage net mixed up. It's now looking like a giant steel monolith, the TARDIS is. So, and I got some fish and wildlife trying to climb on top of it. I don't, so I can't just pull out of here. I suck them into real time with me in real space. So yeah, I was on my way down. I was trying to camouflage as a crop duster so I could fly across the country and spread COVID everywhere. But then I realized there were already a bunch of assholes getting on jet planes going to visit their family doing the same thing. So it would have been redundant to do that. So yeah, to all of you who are hopping on planes to go see people, you must really hate your family.
And
Seriously.
America. You hate your family and America.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you obviously you don't need to see your racist uncle this weekend. You don't. You can go another year without talking to your dumbass brother-in-law. You don't have to hear what the racist grandpa has to say. You can call him, put the phone on speaker, and let him rant about Obama and all those dark years. Yeah. So like I said, I was going to camouflage into a crop duster and spread the Rona, but Americans are doing that well enough on their own, so they don't need my help. So right now I'm having Thanksgiving alone in the steel monolith in southern Utah until these stupid wildlife officers go away.
I love that bioterrorism humor.
Can I also, everybody knows what he's talking about, right? Can we, what is the story? What are we going with as the official story on what the fuck that actually is? Like,
it's me, it's my TARDIS. It's stuck in, it's the camouflage net is stuck. Normally I can make it look like a police box or anything, but for some reason it got stuck in steel monolith mode and I can't get it to change, So yeah, that's why it's there. It's me, I'm stuck there.
you're so unhelpful. I really appreciate it. I love you so much. I
don't know this story. I'm not sure. I mostly I've been getting the references, but I don't know this one.
Can Auntie Fa, can you take it? I saw like something and I thought it was like, I always wonder what's fake news versus not fake news because like everything is fake news. It's whatever. Can you want to fill us in? Like I just saw.
Like I said, I'm in the desert, very isolated spot at the desert. I don't dare give you the exact location. It's adjacent to one of the many national parks, and it's a deep, very inaccessible part of the desert down here in southern Utah. And there's a 12-foot tall steel monolith in the middle of nowhere, and it's there because I'm stuck there. That's me.
Right.
I am a steel monolith in southern Utah. I'm stuck there. My TARDIS is stuck there.
So, and I appreciate Auntie Fa's making a joke, but like I did see some like video and it was like, oh, they like discovered this like big, where did this big metal thing? It's almost like a crop. I thought it was like a crop circle, but like also like I'm not trying to say crop circles aren't, don't hate me for saying crop circles. And I'm not trying to talk about anything.
No, Auntie Fa is taking credit for all strange things, and I am the monolith. Paul was the monolith. I am the monolith. We're stuck here.
It's 2020, so like, why wouldn't there be another weird story of like, I don't know. I have no idea.
That makes people uncomfortable and unsettled. It's probably Antifa.
Yeah, exactly. You know, sorry to all UFO brethren. It may be alien tech, but it's being piloted by a human. And like I said, it's a used TARDIS that Soros bought me, and now my camouflage net is stuck in steel monolith.
Thank you for bringing that in, because I was really thinking that that was like a fringy thing that, was never going to come back up. And then here you are bringing it back up live on a morning show. So we kind of just like have to talk about it. I really appreciate that about you.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, I wish these stupid wildlife officers would get off the top of my TARDIS so I could go. But
Literally. If you don't know, now you know. Welcome to the show. This is what you came for, guys. So, Antifa, thank you for telling us where you're coming from and bringing that weird story into the mix. And any other check? How are you feeling? It's the thanks taking, gratitude, but not to colonizers, Day of Humbling, Healing, Turkey Day. How are you feeling today? Where are you at? Any other things you'd like to share? Gratitude, things on your heart? Anything else?
Oh, well, I'm grateful that I have family members that are smart enough to stay home and not go visit each other, even if it's, driving a couple of 100 miles. It's good to see that. But I am really grateful to all those Americans who made it easier on me so I didn't have to fly across the United States as a crop duster. So thank you for that, America. Good job. All of those Americans that are out there, because I don't know why. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And Lord knows we need more Rona. So I'm grateful for the coronavirus because, it kind of makes us realize just how fragile we are as a species. And just how, it's like the War of the Worlds, at the end, the aliens couldn't be stopped by human beings, but they got stopped by the common cold. Well, apparently nothing could stop humanity from ravaging the planet except for this new virus. And, so I'm grateful. I'm in a weird way, I'm very grateful for the virus, for what it's done. It's what it's shown to me about myself and about the humans around me, and, how our system works or doesn't work. It's really been educational, and I do enjoy learning things. And, yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure how high the sarcasm was in that one, but I am going to second that in a weird way. And this is not, and I want to say, 200 plus, however many, like everybody just like dying, like the crop dusting, the getting on jet planes, COVID cans to travel across the United States. This is not how I imagine things playing out. And I'm not advocating all of the death. And I think the idea that we are so desensitized to death is completely like terrifying to me. And I'm not making light of that. But, when COVID started, when this whole thing started, and I've said like, my first thought was like, maybe this is going to be what everybody needs to wake up. Maybe this will be like, we'll never go back to normal again, right? People will be awakened to the things that really matter. Again, this is not how I imagine things playing out, but in the same way that Trump brought things to the forefront of what was kind of under the surface, I feel like COVID has definitely brought all of these issues that were all boiling under the surface, simmering under the surface, affecting, what affects poor people, like how like different communities are affected. It definitely brought everything up, and to the degree that no one can look away, that we will never go, there is no normal to go back to. And so for that, I guess I am thankful too. And really this isn't how I wanted it to happen, but like, yeah, that's it.
It's like Korean Marie Brown said, things aren't getting worse, they're getting uncovered.
Yeah.
And the only way out is through.
Chills.
Just a little bit of like linguistic trivia here. So the word apocalypse actually comes from a Greek word, apocalypsis, and it does not mean everything falls apart. It means uncovering. That's what that word means. And so when we talk about living through apocalyptic times and you go back to the root of that word, that's actually super literal the last like 5 years, 10 years, depending on how quickly you tuned in to the horrible news show that is reality right now. So
That's a very good point. And, I think just as the Trump administration uncovered a lot of flaws and things that we took for granted as laws and the way things were supposed to, and it was uncovered that no, actually the president can run untrammeled across the whole swath of rights, and that we've let that office get away with for far too long. And just the same as the virus has exposed weaknesses in our healthcare system that many of us knew were there before. There was that big number of 47,000 people die each year because they don't have health insurance before Obamacare was passed. We knew, but now we've got Ben Carson getting a $600,000 round of monoclonal antibodies that nobody else other than Donald Trump has had access to. And so we're seeing the inequities in our healthcare system, not just its fatal flaws.
mhm.
Sorry, I was on mute. I appreciate that, Antifa, too, because the other thing is, and as we go back into like this sort of winter and generally speaking, like, cold and flu season, like when people are going to be more susceptible to getting sick, period, right? Before the COVID, this idea that you don't have to die from the novel coronavirus to have your health outcome affected by the coronavirus, right? And so, example after example, I'm sure, right? But like this idea that like capitalism is the crisis, right? The way that our healthcare system is set up, we're not set up to be able to care for people, period. We weren't set up to do it well before, period. And so, that's what, my friend who just passed, and the idea of like understanding the way that the systems continually failed her, continually, for years and years and years and years and years. And she didn't die from coronavirus, but she didn't have to like be affected by all the same fucking systems, right? And so, you're not wrong. Like it's a thing. So gratitude to maybe we'll be able to come from this to something different, right? That this is the worst that it's going to get, that this is the boiling point, right? And then we can have something better after this.
Before I go to more silent mode, let's not forget this is a long tradition of white folks with privilege bringing disease to different places where it wasn't before. The Native Americans didn't really have an experience with smallpox until we gave them blankets full of smallpox. This is part of the tradition that humanity has gone through, in particular our forefathers, of just spreading disease, and obviously they weren't intentionally spreading disease like that. They were just, they didn't even understand germ theory. So, but still, but now we do. And to know that we know this stuff now, I question our collective morality as a country if we're willing to let this rampage, and people are just so fucking selfish. They got to get on a plane and go visit grandma, who you're probably going to kill with Rona. Okay? Just get that through your brain. This may be grandma's last Thanksgiving because you gave her COVID. Good. Think about it.
And
you're muted, Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, you're muted. Please.
Oh, I muted it because I needed to blow my nose. And nobody needs to hear that. I saw this wedding invitation that said, I think this is pretty close to exactly what it said. Fuck COVID-19. We're keeping our date. No masks allowed. We want to see all your beautiful mouths. Taking lots of pictures of grandparents in case anything happens. there will be a coughing room, and then like the date and the time or whatever. Yeah, right. And then the caption, no, this is even better, right? The caption underneath it that somebody on the internet had added was like, when you want your inheritance like tomorrow.
God.
They should put a coffin in the coughing room.
Ugh.
Drive the point home.
Okay, I just not to take this back, but Everett is on the call, and so I have to say this because this was several years ago. Everett told me that his life plan, his career life plan, was to live on his inheritance, which seemed like a very suspect career life plan. But also the COVID, like I guess you could go about things multiple ways. I don't even know what to say about that. That's insane. Everett, don't get any ideas. No ideas, son.
You can come up with the Rona, or I have a friend whose wife is killing him with hollandaise sauce and Boston cream. So, she wants her life insurance policy.
Each their own. Wow. That's insane. Okay, so I want to say if there's any, because we've got just a few minutes left, just this topic of like gratitude, and I just want to get just everyone's sort of take on this, of the idea of like what gratitude looks like for you, not just today, right? But like and it can be something bigger, something small, either like how that manifests for you or what you're like super grateful for. So I will actually start things off, and I've got a couple of things because I think the idea of gratitude and the idea of like healing or like having, we talked about the other day, Derek was saying something about this sort of like gratitude being positive, and we're not just like angry leftists, right? We're not just like wanting to fight all day long, but the idea of like, what are we thankful for? What does that better world look like? What are we looking forward to? What are we thankful for now? And how that kind of like, how that may manifest for you. So you can take it a variety of ways, again, in kind of whatever direction you'd like to take it, of what speaks to you. But I want to say, I'm going to start off for me. The idea of gratitude is something that I have really struggled with, a feeling that it was very like spiritual, new agey, like bullshit of like giving gratitude in your lifestyle and and I say that because like too cool for me, right? Like too cool for school. Like I never felt like that like necessarily spoke to me as much as it spoke to other people, or what I felt like I saw that it spoke to other people. But I think this idea of gratitude, and Everett knows, we've had a saying that I have had him say since he was a young child. Everett, do you want to say it for everybody? I live a what?
Blessed and privileged life.
I live a blessed and privileged life. And so Everett, sometimes I'll remind him and I'll say, Everett, can you go ahead and say that? Everett, we should say that. And when there's something big or something small, but a lot of times just something small, right? That we don't necessarily, it's the being present in the moment. It's the giving gratitude for what's actually happening in that moment. That a lot of times we miss because we're looking for the bigger thing, or we're waiting for the Christmas present, or we're thinking of the things that you're supposed to give gratitude for. And so, I think for me, the idea of gratitude has been like, it's a great idea to talk about the day, right? But like, as we know, it's kind of based in some weird things. And so the idea of living our whole lives in gratitude, right? Of how that manifests and for me personally, and I think like for me with my son, a lot of times it's the really, really small things. It's like the yummy bite of food, or like a fire, right? Like sitting in front of a fire, or like a puppy, or like just like the tiniest little things. For me, I'm really, really thankful, and I really give gratitude for this idea too of like living a blessed and privileged life of having community and having like-minded souls. And the commies here, I have like my Black Yoga magazine, my BYM tribe family. That's my virtual yoga family, like across the country and also like the world as it grows. But having that community and having those connections, it may seem small, but it's something that not a lot of people have. And it's something that I think that lots of people are really searching for. And I'm jealous of myself in those ways of being able to have those connections and consider myself living a very, very blessed and privileged life to be able to have real, true connections about shit that actually matters. And like-minded souls and transparency and accountability and vulnerability and like all of those things like in relationships. I couldn't be more lucky. I couldn't be more blessed and privileged. I couldn't be more fucking thankful to be able to have that. Because that shit's priceless. Like people, like it's hard to find. It's really, really hard to find. And so for me, I think this idea of gratitude, it doesn't mean living in a fairy world state, right? Remember the Yana's like positivity or like being an optimist is having, seeing the world as it is, but also seeing what it could be, right? And so like understanding where we are, understanding where we could be and living in that realm of still giving thanks for all of it, giving thanks for where we are and where we've come from, and giving gratitude for being able to see the vision or see where we could go. And again, I just, the connection with the people, the connection with different humans. I'm so fucking thankful. And that every day, right? Every fucking day, I have to be like, damn, this is really special. And so that's what I want to say about gratitude. That's my story. And I'm going to stick to that. Anybody else who wants to share, whatever you want to share.
Well, I would be remiss if I did not thank George Soros for all of the money that he is giving to the left. And we should all express a great deal of gratitude to Mr. Soros for all of that money. How can one man pay for so much radicalism? I don't know. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful to George Soros. But other than that, I get the idea that gratitude is that feeling you have when a burden has been lifted. No matter how big or how small, you're hungry, you're cold, those are burdens, those are things you're bearing. And when those things are lifted from you, you feel gratitude. So that's kind of how I feel about gratitude. I feel grateful because I feel like a burden has been taken from me and somebody else is doing that I otherwise would have had to do or bear or do something with. And so that's how I feel. That's one way of expressing or explaining how gratitude works for and what it feels like for me. And it's that feeling that a burden has been taken from you. And that's what I think about gratitude. And of course, let's not forget George Soros. I need my money.
Yeah, George Soros.
But you guys don't understand. The man who I stopped and talked to yesterday for 45 minutes, he really did think that George Soros was funding Antifa. And like, that's really what, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so let's just clarify that like we're joking because
okay, I'm sorry.
Just for any
Satire is dead. Irony is dead.
Well,
Really, I thought George Soros buying me a TARDIS was enough of a giveaway, right? No?
You assume they watch Doctor Who. I mean, would they even know what a TARDIS is? They probably think it's some sort of WMD.
Well, I realized I was like, wait, yeah, like actually we should probably put disclaimers. We should probably say every single time that we're just joking. Because I was like, no, I promise you, like.
And also, let's point out that like George Soros is a billionaire. That's correct, right? Yes, he's a billionaire. Like, Jason was like, how could one man give so much money to whatever? Like, because he exploited a shit ton of people, just like all the other billionaires, which is why he's not giving money to Antifa, because why would he do that? It doesn't, which is just like, that's just another manifestation of like the right, like just getting like totally led by the nose, right? To think that it's not the billionaires, it's just that some are good ones and some are bad ones. Like, no, they're all garbage. They're all garbage, because if you can let your employees live on food stamps and like treat your workers as replaceable bodies to be, you know, like just to be wrecked until you fire them and replace them with somebody else. When your employees wear fucking diapers at work because you don't give them a break, I'm looking at you, fucking Bezos. Like, you're not a compassionate person, right? And the only reason you give a shitload of money is for the PR. Like, I saw an Amazon commercial the other day and they're like, we've provided technology to 550,000 students so they can do remote learning, which, you know, sounds great until you realize that they have like $1 trillion or some shit, like, or companies collectively do, you know, but like Amazon has enough money to give technology to literally every student in the US who needs to do remote learning, like, and probably not even like lose money, right?
I
Yeah.
believe I heard that Jeff Bezos has made so much money during the pandemic that if he were to have just given that all away, he could have paid all of his employees like $1 million. And he
Yeah.
would be right back where he was when this clusterfuck began, still the richest man in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, Amazon workers are $10 an hour and pissing in a diaper. So, hey, yeah, woo! Sorry.
Yeah.
Donna, you were
Oh,
going to say
they're not
something?
$10 an hour. They're like 15 to 19, which that's what they do, right? 15 to 19 is just enough above like the going rate, which most places now, even though minimum wage is like 7 something, are paying like 10, 11, right? Because they want to at least retain like some good employees, right? And so they
Right.
realize like it's worth a couple extra dollars to like not have as high of turnover or whatever. Like, and to be able to be like pickier than you could be if you were just going to pay like $7.25 or whatever. But
You can
like,
work them harder. You get to
Amazon,
work them harder. Work
right,
them harder.
warehouse work, right? Warehouse work pays just enough that it's more than most of the like other like food service and other jobs you could get, and it's just close enough to a living wage in most rural places, right? Like 15 to 19. Still probably a 2-income household, but you know what I mean? Like, so that these people they'll break their bodies until they're broken and they can't work and they can't even, you know, live, like, because they've just literally worked themselves to death trying to keep this job because it's just slightly better than all the other garbage jobs. Right. And that's what they do. They work people until they can't work anymore. And then they fire them or whatever and replace them with somebody else.
I'm not trying to diminish Bezos and Amazon, but I also just want to reflect on the fact that it's not that exotic. It's not that special what's happening there, right?
Oh, no. I mean, Walmart does it too. It's like all warehouse work, right?
I'm like, exactly.
Like,
right?
that's a super common strategy in capitalist. Yeah. Let's pay them just enough so that we can, you know, keep them desperate.
Yeah. I don't remember who said it at some point on this call, but capitalism is the crisis. Capitalism is the crisis.
I mean, exactly. Pick the location and the problem is the same. Like, we didn't wear diapers. I didn't wear diapers. However, the idea of speed, productivity, all of those things, like that's how you're graded, right? And like,
yeah,
like it is what it is. That's the whole fucking thing right now, right? And so Bezos is a perfect example, but there are, like, pick your poison. There are plenty of motherfucking examples. So I just want to make sure that we also call everybody out. As long as we're just gonna call everybody.
And also, like, in case anybody's gonna be trying to bring up, like, you know, the philanthropists or like I don't know. There was this one guy he was in like Move On videos or something. He's like a multimillionaire, billionaire or something, right? And he's like talking about how we need to give workers more. Like, this isn't how we have a healthy economy. And blah blah blah. Like, he's not doing that to be altruistic, right? That's self-preservation. He's like, we actually, in order to keep the system that's enriching us going, we actually need to like give the workers something to spend, and also so they won't eat us. You know what I mean? Like, he's just a little bit more aware, or he cares more. I don't know. I think they're honestly just all banking on pretty soon, climate change is going to wreck the planet and they'll all be living in their like luxury bunkers. And so they're just like, we don't actually need to drag this thing out because pretty soon, everyone will be dying anyway. And, we'll just wait out.
I Googled recipes for eating the rich this morning and tweeted it.
Well, I have my eyes on the former chairman and CEO of ExxonMobil. He weighs about 450 pounds and looks like he's been corn-fed. So that's the long pig I'm signing up to chow down on when it comes time to eat the rich. You hear me, you oil executives?
Yeah,
Yum, yum.
I like that meme that's like a list. It's like the list, the rankings, right? The ongoing rankings of like who's the richest or whatever. And then it's like that meme with the guy who's got like, and there's like a butterfly and he's like, is this a menu?
Nice.
You guys are amazing, and I'm always scared of like which episode of the morning show is going to be good time.
I don't actually have any interest in eating the rich. I think composting is a great solution. I also am in favor of stranding all of the billionaires on like an isolated island without the technology that they would need to escape, and like all of the best things that money can buy, but there's only one of each thing and they just have to fight over it until they all die.
Wow.
And then like leave them. So we didn't actually kill them, right? So we don't have like the blood staining like our new world that we're like trying to build, right? Is not like started with this like perpetuation of violence. They're violencing themselves. We just put them in a place far away.
Cameras all over the place and sell that feed. That would be our new podcast, videocast feed would be Billionaire Island. And we could put cameras there and watch them fight over the jacuzzi.
Reality for the new world.
Yeah, exactly. And who's going to be able to get the only servant on the island? There's one guy.
Right. I would like to think that we'll be too busy building things that actually care for people and actually, like facilitate the world that we need to all like thrive and survive, that we wouldn't have time or interest in like watching that. But also like we're petty and that kind of stuff is entertaining. So, maybe sometimes you need a break. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love Sarah's mind.
What was that?
I said I love Sarah's mind.
Yeah,
Somebody does.
Bob, what did you say?
I said at least somebody does.
Oh,
Would you love it as much if you were inside it? Probably not.
You're assuming mine is any better.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Antifa, thank you. Anything else on gratitude from you? Anything else before we finish up?
Eat the rich.
Thank you for that succinct, very, very, the recap. That's the notes of that last part, eat the rich. Yana, what do you have for us as far as your take on gratitude, or how that looks for you, or
Yeah.
the eat the rich recipe now, or what are we doing?
I mean, to me, like gratitude and love are like both words that I do think, it's easy to downplay them because I think they've gotten new aged a lot. And for me, it's like super practical. And like, if you're not doing something, with what you're grateful for, if you're not providing something through your love, like it really doesn't, it's really not very impactful. And so, sometimes I think about like one of the things that I am definitely really grateful for in my life. And even though it's been years since I didn't have this, like I went through a period when I was really sick with Lyme, that was very Alzheimer's like, where I like, and at one point was like teaching a workshop that I had taught a whole bunch of times before, like would have said, oh, I can teach this in my sleep. And I went completely blank. Not only couldn't remember what I was talking about, but literally was like, who are these people and why am I in this room? Kind of Alzheimer's like episode. And so like for me, like one of the things that I think keeps me going is realizing that like I have the brain and the capacity that I have on borrowed time. And as I have this like temporary asset that I'm
Mhm.
gonna do something with, and I'm gonna like make people's lives better and like use what I have for good, because I have experienced losing it. And it was literally the most terrifying thing I've ever been through. Like, because I mean, anybody who knows me knows that like words and ability to communicate is like, this is what I do. That is the really valuable thing in the world. And yeah. And so for me, it's like, what am I doing with this? And it doesn't mean that everything I try to do is successful or get somewhere or is impactful, but I'm going to like keep acting on that gratitude and acting on that, like, my love of the world gets expressed through using this stuff. And that to me, like coming back to that, I feel like keeps me from becoming that petty, small, self-indulged person. And so whatever you got, use it. And to me,
Mhm.
that's, and then I'll believe that you're actually like living in gratitude or living through love.
Wow. Like I've got chills. I don't, Sarah was saying, so she probably does, like this idea of like, yeah, I really appreciate that. It's like, and then what? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so like you're very grateful, and then what? Like, and then what does that look like next? And what are you giving back? How does that spread? You know what I mean? Like, how does that actually look? And so thank you for that. That's just, damn, like sermons. Thank you. Sarah, what about you?
So I think like this is interesting. So I've been feeling a lot of like feeling shitty about having gratitude for a lot of the things that I have, because I know, do you know what I mean? Like what, and sort of getting stuck in this rut of like, well, what right, or like what, do you know what I mean? Like what is it about, or like that it just, it, and it seems like, I don't know. And it was really, it's to get stuck in that rut, like makes it really hard to maintain a gratitude practice. But I think that, and like even this conversation and like, and sort of like stepping back or thinking about like, why is it still valuable to practice gratitude when it feels like you're excited that you feel like having gratitude means that you're like being excited that you have so much more than other people.
Mhm.
And it's not, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that. And I think like what it does when you stop expressing gratitude is that you get, or that you like let yourself kind of get into that like feeling shitty about it. Like you just end up in this really like depressed place and it really fucks up like to like my self. I don't know. I guess like myself feeling of self-worth or feeling of, do you know what I mean? Cause I'm like, I don't, cause in my brain, right. In my brain that was like raised in like conservative, like Baptist, guilty kind of like, like, it's like, oh, I don't deserve, like this. And so, but I think like the value in still having the gratitude practice, even when it feels like kind of weird to be having gratitude, like when you have more than other people. Which, and it's obviously it's a spectrum, because there's tons of people that would look at my life and be like horrified or whatever. Probably including my mother. But like that, you have to have that practice, because that practice, like, one, it creates resilience, so that if you do lose those things, you're not just like totally in despair, right? You can still look at your life and go, okay, what do I have that I can have gratitude for? Which is, you know, I think a key part of resilience that we need, like, especially in the future, and especially like white people need, especially privileged white people, or more privileged white people need, like, the opportunity to practice that resilience and build that skill, ideally before we need it, and then just like end up super like devastated and non-functioning or something. And also, like, it also like brings your attention, but like in a positive way, right? Like, so if I'm having gratitude for something and it's making me feel shitty that I like have this when other people who need it don't have it, or like whatever, like that can be fuel for change making, right? Like if that makes you feel shitty, instead of like feeling depressed and laying in bed and just like feeling like garbage about it or whatever, do you know what I mean? Then look at, okay, well, like, how can I, you know, do I need this? Is this something I can do without in order to, you know what I mean? Like, if this isn't something that, if this is something that I have because of injustice, what can I do to, you know, to like pay reparations, or to like redirect that privilege, like, and that having that like gratitude practice enables you to identify those areas where, you know what I mean? Where you can, increase your ability to like make an impact, and to like actually, you know, actually do work that helps lessen that like gap, between like, yeah, sort of the haves and the have-nots, I guess.
So
Because like it's not going to even out unless some of us, I mean, there's this whole like liberal sort of like, oh, we just have to bring everyone up to our standard of living, but like, no, our standard of living is abusive. Like, it literally cannot exist without the exploitation of the global south, of people of color here, right? Like this whole, you know, addicted to cheap things that still make us feel like we're middle class or whatever. Like, that was my life growing up, right? Like, and yeah, I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought, but there's probably some good stuff in that.
no, there's lots of good stuff, and
I love vomit.
No. I want to come back to it. I don't want to leave it. I'm coming back to it. Antifa, I think, has run. Antifa.
I do. The wildlife police have cracked out blow torches and crowbars, and before they hurt themselves, I've got to get my TARDIS out of here. So I'll see you guys later. Look for me next as a Coachella porta potty. That's my next. That'll be my next camouflage net.
That'd be a lot of white woke gross shit. Anyway,
you don't want to know what's in my porta potty, sister. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Antifa. Okay, Sarah, I just have to say this. So I don't know if you knew where you were going with that, but that was really, really quite dynamic. And I think this is where, and as we've talked about, this idea of showing vulnerable transparency, like publicly, right? Learning publicly, being vulnerable publicly. About what I was thinking was like correcting the cognitive dissonance, right? Correcting, like, if you're feeling like you're saying one thing and that doesn't feel right, you identify what about that isn't feeling right, what about that is like not matching up, are my actions not lining up to my values, right? And so and then figuring out what you can do to try to correct that, because that really is what brings peace in your heart, right? That really is what like helps start the healing. of like not ignoring it, not pretending like it's not there, like just, you know, we're fine. And I think that's, again, we're like the COVID, or like the lifting of the veils, that we don't have all these distractions, that we can actually like come to something and say, how does this make me feel? And what am I doing? What do I want to do differently? How do I want my behaviors to try to bring some alignment between those? And it's hard, right? And so this idea of like, oh, I'm supposed to give gratitude, but then that makes me feel bad. But then I have to say, like, is this because I should be fighting that everybody should have this, and I know that people don't, right? Or is this something that like I am like giving gratitude for, but like I don't even know why, like what, like is this even a necessary thing that is actually making me feel gratitude? Like, do I actually, you know what I mean? Like deciphering where those feelings are coming from, and then also thinking about what you can do to feel better, because this isn't about just like staying in this situation and like this sucks, or shutting down, or ignoring, or saying no, but really like working through that for some like real healing and health. I mean, that's for me, that's what helps. Yeah, that was really fucking impactful. Yana, do you look like you're about to
No,
go?
I'm good. I'm just enjoying listening to these amazing humans that I get to live with. Like,
It's kind of special, right? Can we give gratitude for that now that we've got like the females on right now, just like the.
I
I
know.
also just have to say, like I guess a thought that we had, or that I had, as you were saying, like about like the commitment to learn in public and stuff. And I think that like this is one of those things where like neurodivergence is actually like an asset, and is going to be, and like people who are neurodivergent in particular ways can like have an impact, or can like lead change, like similar in the way to like that the disability community, in terms of like disaster preparedness and prepping and disability justice, or and like transformative justice and all this stuff, are like sort of like the vanguard of that. Like a lot of times when you're neurodivergent, if you have attention disorders, or if you're on the spectrum, like part of that is this sort of like propensity to just like sort of thought vomit everywhere, and which can be, obviously can be problematic, but like channeled in a particular way, especially in terms of like if it makes it easier to sort of do that learning in public, and just be like, I'm just gonna like put everything that's in my brain just like out, you know what I mean? That like, it just occurs to me that that's like a particular quality that actually is an asset. And it reminds me of sort of like this emergent strategy, like maybe our quote weaknesses are actually the things that will save us.
Right.
Or the things that we don't value now, like if we pay attention to them, you know, we will find that like these are the tools that we need to like gain liberation.
Right. Yeah, I think particularly that piece of it really resonates with me, because I feel like it's like these like politeness paradigms that are like the normie culture, and it's also like super white and middle class, and like there's this whole like it's not normative, that's the word that I'm looking for, like normative culture is so closely tied to capitalism, and like, you know, and so it's like I'm super grateful to my like neurodivergent folks, and to like, you know, the women of color in my life who just by showing up passionately run the risk of getting labeled angry Black women, and like, and it's because they're not playing by these like oppressive rules to some extent. And, you know, so yeah, I mean, like, break that shit. You know?
Can I'm just, now I have to speak to that. So I've had this conversation with one of my friends who's a white presenting white woman. And this idea that like, the more you subscribe, the more you model the white male patriarchal capitalist system, right? Of what that looks like, of what's rewarded and what's successful, quote unquote, right? Sorry, I should add the quotes just in case Matt wants to use this for the podcast later, quote unquote, like those norms, right? Which are based in male norms, right? More than not. And so this was the whole thing, like, and she's been an introvert. She's naturally an introvert, but like you force yourself, right? You do what like is rewarded. And so the more you emulate man-like behavior, right? If you can get away with it as a white woman and not the angry Black woman, sometimes you can get away with it. And then that's what's like rewarded as being good, right? And so there's always this like line that you have to toe of how something's going to be perceived or what your actions are, as opposed to just being who you are and just showing up. And the idea of like the conversation that we've had is that I have just been so convicted. The older that I've gotten, the more teams that I've managed, the more people, the more humans that I've known. And this idea that like diverse perspectives and the differences and those things are really actually the most powerful and the most impactful for change. And so like when Sarah, this idea of like, it's time for the introverts to speak their mind. It's time for the people who don't say the shit that's on their mind to say the shit that's on their mind, because that's what we need to actually move forward, right? Like we need those. And so like, it's not normalized yet, but that's what we're here to do. That's what I was like, that was my thing to Sarah, of like, let's just go on there and let's just do this, because also it's hard until you've seen it done. It's difficult to describe or to have somebody, right? Like until you see it. And then it's like, oh, okay, there we go. Now we have that communion. Now I can see it and I can do it too. So it's time, neurodivergent, the introverts, like all the people who like don't say their mind, like, please, we need you for forward growth, like for the next phase of where we're going. Thank you. Wow. Okay. And I know that that's what a lot of white people are struggling with, right? And then the thing is, usually if you feel those feelings, you get to either like live in that cognitive dissonance and like have that very uncomfortable, ugly feeling and try to figure out what to do, or you're just like, forget it, I'm just going to go back to the world I know. And we don't want people to do that, right? So it's this idea of like, it's okay, we're here, let's work through it together, like do it again, whatever that is. We're here for you. Okay.
Cool. I'm going to need to hop off because I need to go baste a turkey.
I think we're good. Sarah, you good? I'm good. That was like a lot more than I was planning on. So
yeah. I also need to go get ready for the day. So
I go do my stuffing. What'd you say? Okay, great. Patreon.com/Solidarity House. Like, share, subscribe, please. We love you guys.
Great. That reminded me that the other thing I was going to say, as far as like kind of like gratitude and like how can we not just like have a normal turkey day and like do land acknowledgements or some shit, but then like not actually change anything about it, right? So like pick something that's like your practice. So like for me this year, I am going to take a chunk of the money that I got like for my birthday, which was a couple of weeks ago, and use it to like, I've been listening to a ton of podcasts that have been really just like helpful and giving me lots of ideas and things that I just are really, educational, and also like here are tools, to like work towards liberation, like even in your own brain, like the Red Nation, how to survive the end of the world, all my relations, trying to think of those. I've been listening to Rev Left a little bit, which is I feel like a pretty well-known one. But if you're listening to podcasts regularly, especially from BIPOC folks, like go on there, like if you have some money, even if you just have like, and so like I'm gonna like, I don't have money on a regular basis to like, but I'm gonna like plan like, okay, this money is for like Patreon for, do you know what I mean? And it will last like the whole year for like the subscriptions that I'm going to do, even if it's just like $1 or $2, right? Like supporting the idea of like, this isn't just free labor for us to consume, and we should be supporting those things so that they can like continue. Yeah. And I mean, obviously not everyone has bougie family that gives them money for their birthday or whatever. So, I mean, obviously like liking and sharing and leaving reviews is like also a great way to support if, you know, if you have time and not cash available. But yeah, I just want to encourage folks to like think about your media use and think about what labor of folks you're benefiting from, and if there's more that you can do to support that and compensate those people.
And this is why I love you and why we're friends, because that's on your heart, which I couldn't have said any better myself. And like ditto, echo, spirit, all of it. Yeah. Thank you. Cool.
So subscribe to us, but also subscribe to other people.
That part. Like, yeah. Okay. Love you guys. I'll see you guys soon. We'll see you guys Monday. We will be off tomorrow because we're doing retreat, but we will be back Monday at 9 a.m. Peace, love, all the good stuff. Bye.
Bye.